as Her Majesty is laid to rest, it brings an end to the incredible Elizabethan era. Queen Elizabeth II was a consistent through many world events and played a huge part in female liberation and the shaping of the Commonwealth. Thousands of people lie in the streets to say goodbye to the late monarch. Details for the state funeral have been in the planning stages for years. And of course, Westminster Abbey was filled with dozens of world leaders, foreign royalty and members of the British royal family. Tim Ewart is a royal commentator and he joins us live now from Suffolk in the UK to discuss this historic event. Moving scenes last night, Tim, out of London. How would you sum up the event?
Well, it's been an extraordinary 10 days here, Peter. It's been a strange mixture, in a way, of grief and celebration. And as you've been pointing out a little earlier, there has been an enormous public display of affection for the late monarch. There's also been, during that period, a lot of discussion about the future of the monarchy. Now, we're now out as members of the public of official mourning. As you can see, I've put my black tie away. And the reality is that the royal family is going to gently and slowly be removed from the front pages for a time, because we've got urgent and more pressing issues, economic specifically, to be discussed here. So I think the intensity of the debate that we've been having, other broadcasters around the world have been having, the intensity of that debate is going to calm down for a little, certainly here in Britain, because people are now going to be looking to other issues. Has it been a unifying factor in the country? People hope so. The displays of those huge numbers of people in the queue waiting to see the Queen's coffin, new friends were made, the mood was uplifting. Maybe that will permeate the nation and last. But really, we just have to wait and see on that.
Tim, it was an extraordinary moment, the funeral itself. I mean, so much pomp and ceremony. What was the moment for you that was most striking?
Well, I think for a lot of people in this country, the sight of of William and Kate's children, George and Charlotte, will be, I think, an abiding image. I mean, they're 9 and 7 years old, respectively, and pulled it off remarkably, really. It's a very solemn occasion. I mean, the Queen had wanted herself that service not to be, in her words, long and boring, and it lasted for about an hour. So it wasn't too much of an ordeal. I have to say, there was a moment when I noticed that Prince George was doing what I think quite a lot of us have done in the past. He was having a look through the order of service with a view to seeing how much longer there was to go.
Yeah.
But I think that will be the abiding image of it. And I suppose the music, which is what the Queen wanted to be uplifting, will be remembered. But mainly, to answer your question, those two little kids.
Yeah. And you mentioned, Tim, both George and Charlotte. I mean, Charlotte, we saw quite grief-stricken towards the finish there. Do you think it was the right decision, in your opinion, to take them along? Because there was a fair bit of debate about it, wasn't there? They were the youngest there.
Well, at one level, it was a family funeral. Obviously, it was on television globally. Those debates, Peter, always kick off here. You know, there's always somebody who wants to write an article saying, did the royal family slip up over this? Did they slip up over that? I mean, I think the only way you can judge it is to see that the way the children conducted themselves through the service. And the reference of Charlotte being in tears, if I'm not mistaken, was a photograph that was taken. I don't think that was on the broadcast feed. To me, there was no evidence that they were in any way uncomfortable, unlike, if we wanted to turn the clock back, William and Harry following their mother's coffin 25 years ago.
Now, Tim, a date has not yet been set for King Charles III's coronation. There are reports we could be waiting until next year. Is that your sense?
Yes, very much so. The royal family like to do big occasions like this in the sunshine, if possible. And as you know, we can't guarantee that here. But that's what happened with Queen Elizabeth. She ascended to the throne in February, but her coronation wasn't until the following summer. So people could once again turn out on the streets. And I think that's what will happen. It will be interesting to see the scale of that coronation because, of course, the talk now is all about a slimmed down monarchy, saving money, being more transparent. It remains to be seen how grand it will be, but I suspect Charles will want it to be slightly lower key than coronations have been in the past.
And Tim, inevitably we are going to be talking about the Republican debate here in Australia. I mean, I mentioned it in my opener. I actually think that it would at the moment probably lose because there's so much outpouring of support for the royal family. What do Brits think of the prospect of countries like Australia becoming a republic?
Well, I think we accept the inevitability of that, and the royal family have always said these are matters for each country to decide on. Quite clearly, the royal family will visit, I'm sure, one of the royal family will visit Australia in the following months, and the influence of that visit, I'm sure they would hope, would win Australians to support the monarchy. But they don't campaign. You know, they're not. It's not like an election. And I think the majority of Brits here, it's a matter for you guys. I don't think anybody in Britain is going to be troubled if you no longer have the Queen as your head of state. Here, it's a different matter. You know, you're not going to find a major political party going to the polls here wanting to abolish the monarchy because they wouldn't do very well.
You mentioned the Queen's sense of humour, which we know was fantastic, and she also had this wonderful love affair with animals, in particular thoroughbred racehorses. She loved Royal Ascot. She even had horses that competed in the Melbourne Cup here, and even her corgis were there to say goodbye. What did you make of that?
Well, the corgis, I think the one gesture that's been made to the disgraced Prince Andrew is that those corgis, one is called Mick, and I can't remember the name of the other, I'm afraid, possibly Fergus. I'm struggling to remember their names. They're going to be looked after by Prince Andrew and his former wife, the Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson, who lived together and have lived together for some time in Windsor on the royal estate. There are interesting questions which haven't been addressed yet about the Queen's racehorses, of which there are a lot. And to be honest, that's not a subject I've seen being discussed here or talked about, but that's going to be an issue. There's going to be an issue about all the property that the royal family has at its disposal as well. And I think you will see the new King, Charles, taking a look at Balmoral, taking a look at Sandringham, and trying to decide in future, can money be saved on all those properties?
Now, Tim, you've been doing this for a long time. I mean, how much of a career milestone has this been for you? I mean, covering such an enormously important event, it's obviously something that's very dear to your heart.
Yeah, it's the end of an era. I was a royal correspondent, not because I'm an ardent monarchist. You know, as a reporter, I always tried to be as objective as possible, as you can imagine. People who are opposed to the monarchy accuse royal reporters in this country of being sycophantic and obsequious and so forth. In the case of the Queen, there really, in my time, wasn't really any controversy over which one could become critical. I mean, we'd moved on from that era of the death of Diana. The Queen faced a lot of criticism for a few days.
Sure.
Covering the was pretty straightforward, and I did the last of her tours, including the tour to Australia, which was her farewell to that country. For all of us, it's been an extraordinary milestone. It's something I think that you thought would never happen. And there were hundreds of voices broadcast, as you can imagine, on television and radio here of people giving their comments to the Queen. And the one that struck me was a woman who said simply, "I don't know why, but I just feel like I knew her." And I think that's how the majority of people in this country feel about the Queen.
I think everybody felt like that, Tim. Tim Ewart, always a pleasure to chat. Thanks for joining us tonight.
My pleasure.